Monocytes are macrophages that eat dead cells in the body. They also digest dead cells because they are big. They help in innate immunity. They also help in clearing and eating dead cells from the bloodstream. They help T cells recognize pathogens through the use of antigen. They help in inflammation during tissue damage to fight infections. Eosinophils helps in inflammation. It also traps parasites, kills infected cells, and helps indicate allergies. Basophils help dilate blood vessels, which allow more immune cells to reach an infected area. They contain heparin, which prevents blood clotting. Immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin G fights pathogens in the body. They are also transferred through the placenta from mother to an unborn child, giving the unborn child immunity against a pathogen that they have not been exposed to. Immunoglobulin A helps prevent infections of the mucous membrane in the body, like the mouth, throat, lungs, etc. Immunoglobulin M activates immune response to infection. It also neutralizes infection at an early stage. Immunoglobulin E activates mast cells on exposed parts of the body, like skin, mouth, and throat. It triggers allergic reactions to defend the body from pathogens. Immunoglobulin D defends the body from respiratory from receptors. Immunoglobulin D defends the body from respiratory infections and also acts as an antigen receptor on B cells. Self-recognition is when the immune system of the body differentiates between its own cells and tissues and that of a foreign organism. MHC1 molecules are found on all nucleated cells like macrophages and act as a warning system to the immune system as it recognizes pathogens using cytotoxic T cells. MH11 are molecules found in certain cells of the immune system. It focuses on pathogens outside the cell and presents antigens found on the body to phagocytes or for the body of phagocytes to T cells, which they use and fight any cell possessing that antigen. Human human leukocyte antigen is a gene complex response for identifying cells with the correct protein marker for itself from those of invading cells which have the wrong protein marker. The immune system is triggered once invading cells are recognized by releasing antibodies to fight the invading cells. HLA is a unique HLA is unique to every individual and is inherited from both parents 50% each. That is mother and father. Siblings have more compatibility than non-siblings, and this determines the success and failure of organ transplants. Tolerance to own tissues and rejection of transplanted organs. The body is tolerant to its own tissues, cells, organs because the antigens MCH or HLA is recognized as self. So there will be no immune response to attack its own tissues. When the tolerance of cell tissues is lost, it results in autoimmune disease or allergy. The rejection of transplanted organs is a result of attack by the immune system to foreign antigens. This can be hyperacute, acute, or chronic. Hyperacute is when the transplanted organs are rejected within minutes to 48 hours of transplant because the antigens don't match at all and demands instant removal of organ to prevent the individual from dying. It is characterized by illness, high fever, graft tenderness. Graft tenderness. Acute rejection is when the transplanted organ is rejected by the host within a week to 2 years of transplant. It is characterized by high temperature, flank pains, kidney failure, fluid retention, etc. All recipients of organ transplants suffer some amounts of acute rejection. Chronic rejection is when the host body immune response against the new organ slowly damages the new organ. It happens over many years. Describing two specific immune system disorders. Immune system disorder is when there is an abnormally low activity of immune system causing infection of the body as the immune system can't defend the body, or abnormally high immune activity causing autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the cells of its own body like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the cells of the body like the joints by mistake, making it swollen, stiff, and painful. It occurs in the knee, hand, and wrists. When this occurs in the knee, it results to less mobility, reduction in daily activity, pain during movements, inability to move sometimes, discomfort. This can be treated by surgery to correct it, medication to help subside the pains, use of wheelchair to aid movement. Lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the cells of the body, causing inflammation to different parts of the body, of the skin, the different body parts like the skin, lungs, kidney, brain, blood cells, etc. It is distinguished in most cases by a rash on the face that looks like the wings of a butterfly. It can also be caused by infections, certain drugs, sunlight, etc. This causes fever, making them sick. Therefore, they will not be able to go to work to carry out day to day activities. It causes skin lesions where, when exposed to the sun, thereby limiting when they are able to go out, especially summertime. It can also cause kidney failure, leading to death. Lupus can be treated by taking medication like non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs to treat pain, swelling, fever associated with lupus. Also taking anti-malarial drugs like hydroxychloroquine to reduce lupus flares. Also exercising regularly, quitting smoking, eating a healthy lifestyle will help in lupus treatment. The categories of acquired immunity, including natural, artificial, passive, and active. Active immunity is when the body is exposed to a pathogen and it develops antibodies to fight it. It can be natural or artificial. It has few side effects. Its effects is not immediate. Natural immunity is when the body's immune system attacks a particular pathogen that invades the body. During this process, the T cells in the bloodstream attaches itself to the pathogen and then presents it to the B cells, which helps to release antibodies to fight the pathogen. The B cells, which are the memory cells, will then be able to remember that pathogen and provide natural immunity to the body against that particular pathogen next time it is encountered. This lasts for a very long time, sometimes a lifetime. Artificial immunity is when the antigens are introduced into the body intentionally through vaccination. This triggers an immune response against the antigen. The immune system is then able to develop antibodies that will provide immunity to the disease. Example is vaccinating against measles. This stops the individual from contracting measles in future as their body fights off the infection as it has active antibodies that will provide the immunity that lasts for a long time. Passive immunity is when the individual acquires immunity against a pathogen by antibodies produced by another person. It can be natural or artificial. Natural is when a newborn baby gets antibodies from the mother's placenta. This doesn't last long. While artificial immunity is when someone that has artificial passive immunity is when someone that has no antibody against hepatitis B virus is injected by the serum extracted by a donor who has antibodies against hepatitis B virus as a result of immunization or previous infection. Its effect is immediate and it has more side effects like serum sickness, especially after immunization. Explain immune response to vaccination, primary and secondary response, including immunological memory. Immune response is how the body responds to infections or pathogens. It responds by the release of antibodies by the immune system in response to an infection or pathogen. Immune response can be triggered by vaccinations or direct exposure to a pathogen. Primary immunity is when the immune system encounters a pathogen for the first time and it learns how to fight that pathogen, and in the process, the infected person, the, the person infected by that pathogen develops the symptoms of the pathogen. The immune system then releases antibodies to fight the pathogen and then produces memory cells against that pathogen. Antibodies decline quickly. There is a low affinity of antigen by immune system. Both thymus dependent and independent antigens trigger the response of antibodies. Secondary immunity is when the immune system encounters a pathogen for the second, third, or fourth time, or even many years later. The memory cells recognizes the pathogens and releases antibodies very quickly and in larger quantities to fight the pathogen before the symptoms show. There is a high affinity to antigen by immune system. Only thymus dependent antigen trigger response of antibodies. Antibodies remain high for longer. Immunological memory is the ability of the immune system to recognize antigens on pathogens, cell tissues, cells, transplanted organs, etc. This helps it to protect the body by mounting a heavy attack on antigens that it re-encounters and also causes transplant rejection once it recognizes organs or tissues or and cells being transplanted as alien or not matching cell tissues and cells. Evaluate the benefits of vaccination by analyzing measles infection rates in the UK between 1940 and the present day. Vaccination is exposing the immune system to weakened pathogens so that it will stimulate white blood cells to reproduce antibodies that will protect the body from that particular pathogen. It can be live, where virus is weakened before administering to patients. It can also be attenuated, where the virus is not alive and the vaccination has to be administered twice or more before it can become effective. Vaccinations protect us from diseases, it saves lives, helps in economic growth, increases life expectancy, etc. There are major and minor measles epidemics. There was major and minor measles epidemic between 1940 to 1967, where the number of cases recorded was consistently six figures and the death toll was mostly three figures and four figures, once 1,145 in 1941, and then fell to 28, two figures for the first time ever in 1954. This was partly due to the World War II, which happened between 1939 and 1945, and food rationing between 1940 and 1954, and living conditions of the masses. This meant that people lived in safe houses, which was overcrowded. This made it easy for measles to spread. Also, food was rationed, so they didn't eat balanced diet to help boost the immune system, which made a lot of people to be easily infected by measles. The introduction of National Health Service in 1948 brought about a slow, steady decline of measles measles death between 1948 and 1951, regardless of the high number of cases that was still being recorded. This can be credited with more people having access to free treatment on the NHS. Between 1954 and 1967, the death toll averaged two figures. The lowest was 28 in 1956 and the highest was 174 in 1955. By 1968, vaccination against measles started. The death toll dropped significantly further down and kept the infection rate within 100,000 plus average, except for 1970 when the infection rate was 307,408. The death toll was significantly low at 48 compared to previous years when vaccination was not available. In 1981, the death toll caused by measles has reduced to less than 20 and the infection rate dropped to less than 100,000. By 1988, the death toll has averaged below 20 and by 1989, till date, the death toll dropped to single figures, 4 being the maximum in 1993. Some years even recorded no deaths, like in 1994, 1996, 2003, 2005, 2010, 2014, and 2015. The infection rate was also low, less than 10,000. In 1992 was the year when the last death from acute measles was recorded. Then, from then till date, all deaths relating measles have been found not to be direct result of measles, as most casualties have been adults who suffered measles a long time ago. Discuss the concept of herd immunity, vaccination programs. Give two examples of vaccination programs. Herd immunity is when a group of people vaccinated against a particular disease surround someone that has a disease, and that is and and that disease cannot infect that group because they are vaccinated. This helps prevent the spread of diseases because the disease will die out once the person suffering from it gets well. Herd immunity helps protect vulnerable people in a group or community that cannot or have not been vaccinated against a particular disease, like newborn babies, because disease can't easily be spread as most people have immune excuse me, as most people are immune against the disease. Vaccination programs are the different types of vaccinations that prevent contraction of different diseases given to people to prevent them from contracting those diseases, which includes the timing of all doses, which may be either recommended or complementary, like flu jabs, MMR vaccinations for measles, flu jabs for flus, MMR vaccinations for measles. Factors affecting vaccine uptake, such as seasonality and someone who already has a disease. Vaccine uptake is affected by a lot of things like social class, education, known effect of the vaccine, believe that it causes autism, which may lead to non immunization, or known to prevent infection, which may lead to immunization. Religious beliefs. Immunization is against their when immunization is against their belief. Seasons. The disease is prevalent that period, making people to get immunization like flu. Prevalence of other diseases on the individual to be vaccinated, which can result to death, making them not to be immunized. These factors determines if people will take vaccination or not. Flu. Flu is an infectious disease that is easily spread when one coughs or sneezes. The germs are alive for 24 hours. Flu can be prevented by washing our hands, covering our mouth with tissue when coughing or sneezing to trap germs and being the tissue. It can also be prevented by getting flu jabs, etc. Flu jab vaccinations. Flu vaccinations contain inactivated microorganisms that have been cultured and then destroyed by chemicals by radiation so as to prevent it from infecting the vaccinated individual. Measles is a highly infectious disease, mostly affecting children. It affects also it also affects adults. It is an airborne disease that is spread through coughing, sneezing, and the virus can live in the air for about 2 hours. It can also be contracted by touching the surface area where there are droplets of the virus. It can be prevented by MMR vaccination. The MMR vaccination contains microorganisms which are attenuated. They provoke immune response. Thank you, and this is the end of my presentation.